Now let's begin. Raymond Salazar learned to read people in the oil fields of West Texas. 20 years of managing roughneck crews taught him that most folks revealed their true nature when they thought no one important was watching. He built Salazar Energy Solutions from a single pickup truck into a company worth $40 million, not by trusting easily, but by recognizing snakes before they bit. He should have recognized the snake living in his house. Raymond met Lisa Hendricks at a charity gala in Dallas 7 years ago. She wore a blue dress that matched her eyes and laughed at his stories about blowout preventers with genuine interest. She seemed different from the oil money socialites, warmer, more grounded. She said she valued family above everything. He proposed 4 months later. The wedding was modest by Dallas standards. Lisa's parents, Stuart and Bertha Hendricks, owned a successful chain of dental practices across North Texas. Old money, or what passed for it in a state where fortunes changed hands every generation. Stuart was quiet, deferential. Bertha ran everything: the practices, the family, the conversations. She had pale blue eyes that never quite smiled, even when her mouth did. "You'll take good care of our daughter," Bertha told Raymond the night before the wedding. "Not a question." "I will," he promised. "See that you do." She patted his arm with fingers that felt like ice through his shirt. "Family is everything, Raymond. Remember that." Their son Justin arrived 2 years into the marriage. 7 pounds, 6 ounces of screaming, perfect humanity. Raymond held him in the hospital and felt something shift in his chest, a vulnerability he'd never experienced. He would kill for this child, die for him, move mountains. The first year was sleepless and wonderful. Lisa proved to be a devoted mother, though she deferred to Bertha's advice on everything from feeding schedules to nursery colors. Raymond worked long hours building the company, trusting his wife to make decisions about their son. That was his first mistake. By Justin's second birthday, patterns emerged. Bertha visited 3 times a week, staying for hours. She criticized Lisa's parenting in small, cutting ways. "You're spoiling him. That's not how we raised you. Children need discipline, dear." Lisa would adjust course, implementing her mother's suggestions with increasing frequency. Raymond noticed, but said nothing. Bertha was overbearing, sure, but lots of grandmothers were. And Lisa seemed happier with her mother's approval. "Keep the peace," he told himself. "Focus on work." Stuart rarely spoke during family dinners. He sat at the head of the table, carving the roast with mechanical precision, while Bertha directed conversation like a conductor. When Justin spilled his milk at age 4, Stuart's hand twitched toward his belt before Bertha touched his wrist. "Not here, dear," she murmured. "We discussed this." Raymond caught the exchange, but Lisa changed the subject, and the moment passed. Another red flag he filed away and ignored. By age 6, Justin had become a quiet child. He flinched when adults raised their voices. He asked permission for everything. "Can I have water? Can I go to the bathroom? Can I play with my trucks?" The constant deference bothered Raymond, but Lisa said Bertha assured her this was good manners. Respect for authority. "He's just polite," Lisa said when Raymond suggested Justin seemed afraid. "Mother says children today are too wild, too undisciplined. She's helping me raise him properly." "He's not afraid," Lisa insisted, her voice rising. "He's respectful. There's a difference." The business trip to Houston came up suddenly. A potential merger with a smaller company required Raymond's personal attention. The deal could add $15 million to Salazar Energy's bottom line, but it meant 3 days of negotiations and site inspections. "You'll be fine?" Raymond asked Lisa the night before he left. Justin was already asleep, tucked into bed after a quiet dinner where he'd barely spoken. "Of course." Lisa kissed his cheek. "Mother offered to help while you're gone. Justin loves spending time there." Something cold touched Raymond's spine. "Maybe I should." "Raymond, it's 3 days. We'll be fine. Close your deal. Make us proud." He left Tuesday morning, briefcase in hand, that cold feeling still present but ignored. "Focus on business. Trust your wife. Everything's fine." The Houston negotiations went smoothly. Too smoothly. By Thursday afternoon, Raymond had the signatures he needed and a promise to finalize the merger within 60 days. He called Lisa to share the good news. "That's wonderful," she said, but her voice sounded thin, stretched. "When will you be home?" "Friday evening, like I said." "Why?" "Is everything?" "Everything's fine. Justin's at Mother's house. He's been there since yesterday. She's teaching him manners." That cold feeling spread through Raymond's chest. What kind of manners? Just proper behavior. She says he's been difficult lately. Talking back. Lisa's voice dropped to a whisper. I should go? Dinner's burning. She hung up before Raymond could respond. He stared at his phone in the hotel room. Houston's skyline glittering outside his window. Difficult? Justin? The boy who asked permission to breathe? Something was deeply wrong. Raymond knew it the way he knew when a well was about to blow. A pressure building. Invisible, but undeniable. He checked his watch. 6:45. If he packed now, hit the road by 7, he could be in Dallas by midnight. Home by 1. Raymond threw clothes into his bag without folding them. The drive north on I-45 felt endless. Raymond's mind churned through possibilities, each worse than the last. He called Lisa twice. Both times it went to voicemail. He called the Hendricks house. No answer. By the time he pulled into his driveway at 12:53, his hands ached from gripping the steering wheel. The house was dark. Lisa's car was gone. Raymond unlocked the front door. Lisa? Justin? Silence. He checked Justin's room. The bed was made, undisturbed. He checked the master bedroom. Empty. He called Lisa again. This time she answered. Raymond? What's wrong? Where are you? I'm at a hotel. Near Mother's house. Justin was so upset I thought it better to stay close. I was going to tell you. Why is Justin upset? What happened? He's being punished. Mother is. She's helping him learn. I told you this. Raymond's vision narrowed to a single point. What address? What hotel? Raymond, you're scaring me. What? Address. She gave it to him. Then, quieter, he's not at the hotel. He's still at Mother's. She said it would ruin the lesson if I interfered. That I needed to trust her process. Raymond was already back in his truck. You left our son there? Overnight. She raised me. She knows what she's doing. Justin needs to learn that actions have consequences, and he hung up. The Hendricks house was in Highland Park, 15 minutes from his home. He made it in 8, running 2 red lights and taking a corner fast enough to make his tires scream. The house sat behind a tall iron gate. Raymond punched in the code Lisa had given him years ago. The gate swung open. He parked in the circular driveway and tried the front door. Locked. His hands shook as he retrieved the emergency key from under the 3rd flower pot. Lisa's childhood hiding spot. She'd told him once, laughing. He wasn't laughing now. The house was dark except for a single light in the kitchen. Raymond moved through the familiar layout, past the formal dining room, past the study where Stuart kept his golf trophies. The back door leading to the yard stood slightly ajar. He stepped outside. The backyard was expansive, landscaped with precision. Security lights illuminated the pool, the gazebo, the garden. And beyond that, in the corner near the fence, a large doghouse. Raymond's breath stopped. A chain extended from the doghouse. And at the end of that chain, Justin, his 7-year-old son, curled on the ground, shirtless despite the cool October night. A metal collar around his neck connected to the chain. A dog bowl sat inches from his face. Raymond's vision went red. He crossed the yard in long strides. Justin looked up, and Raymond saw the expression that would haunt him forever. Hope mixed with terror, love mixed with shame. Daddy, Justin's voice cracked. Grandma said you wouldn't come. She said boys who don't listen live like animals. Raymond knelt, his fingers finding the collar's clasp. It was padlocked. Who has the key? Grandma. She comes every few hours. To check if I've learned. Learned what? To obey. Justin started crying, silent tears streaming down his dirty face. I just wanted water. At dinner. I asked 3 times, and she said I was being greedy. That I needed to learn my place. She said you'd be disappointed in me for being weak. Raymond's hands moved to the chain itself. Heavy duty, the kind used for aggressive dogs. He pulled. The chain held firm, bolted to the doghouse foundation. Hold still, buddy. He stood, walked to the garden shed, and found bolt cutters. Bertha kept everything organized, tools arranged by size, each hanging on labeled hooks. The bolt cutters were new, their handles still wrapped in plastic. Raymond cut through the chain in 3 sharp movements. Then he lifted his son, feeling how light he was, how he trembled. I've got you, Raymond whispered. I've got you. You're safe now. Justin buried his face in Raymond's shoulder. I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm sorry I was bad. You weren't bad. You were never bad. Raymond carried his son toward the house. The back door opened fully, and Bertha Hendricks stepped out, backlit by the kitchen light. She wore a silk robe and an expression of mild annoyance. "Raymond, we weren't expecting you until tomorrow." He stopped 5 feet from her. Justin's weight felt precious in his arms, a reminder of what mattered. Bertha's eyes moved to the cut chain. "You've ruined my lesson. Do you have any idea how long it takes to train proper behavior? You've just undone hours of." Raymond spoke 5 words. His voice was quiet, level, stripped of emotion. "I'm going to destroy you." Bertha's face went white. For the first time since he'd known her, her confidence cracked. She saw something in his eyes that made her step backward. "Now, Raymond, let's discuss this rationally. I was simply providing discipline that Lisa was too weak to." He walked past her into the house. She followed, her voice rising. "You can't just take him." Lisa agreed to this. She understood that children need firm boundaries. "My methods may seem harsh, but they produce results. Look at Lisa, successful, respectful, obedient." Raymond stopped in the kitchen. Justin's collar still hung around his neck. Raymond set him down gently and worked the padlock with a steak knife from the block, jimmying it until the mechanism gave. The collar clattered to the tile floor. "Get in the truck, Justin." "Raymond, we need to talk about this." Bertha's voice turned shrill. "You're overreacting. This is how children were raised for generations. Your modern permissive parenting is exactly what's wrong with." He turned to face her fully. Bertha stopped mid-sentence. 6 hours, Raymond said quietly. "You have 6 hours before everything you've built comes crashing down. I'm giving you this courtesy because I'm not a monster. But know this, what you did to my son will seem gentle compared to what's coming for you." "You're threatening me?" "In my own home." Bertha's shock turned to rage. "I'll call the police. I'll have you arrested for trespassing. For theft. That's my grandson, and you can't." "Call them." Raymond headed for the front door, Justin's hand in his. "I'll wait right here. And when they arrive, I'll show them the chain, the collar, the bowl, and I'll explain how you've been doing this for how long." "Justin." 3 days, his son whispered. Bertha's mouth opened and closed. Stuart appeared at the top of the stairs, bleary-eyed in pajamas. "What's all this noise?" he asked. Raymond looked at him, this hollow man who'd stood by while his wife tortured a child. 6 hours, Stuart. For both of you. Use them wisely." He left with his son, buckling Justin into the passenger seat of his truck. As they pulled away, Raymond saw Bertha in the doorway, her robe pulled tight, her face no longer white, but mottled red with fury. She wouldn't call the police. He knew her type. Image mattered more than anything. The scandal of having her methods exposed would destroy her precious reputation. But that was fine. Raymond had other plans. At home, he ran a bath for Justin, gentle and warm. He washed the dirt from his son's skin, applied antibiotic cream to the raw spots where the collar had rubbed. He made hot chocolate and sat with Justin in the living room, wrapped in blankets. "Daddy." Justin's voice was small. "Is Mommy mad at me?" Raymond's jaw clenched. "No, buddy. Mommy made a mistake. A big one. But none of this is your fault. Do you understand? None of it. Grandma said I was difficult. She said you'd agree with her. She said good fathers punish bad sons. Your grandmother is wrong about a lot of things. And she's going to learn that very soon." Justin fell asleep on the couch near dawn. Raymond carried him to bed, tucked him in, and kissed his forehead. Then he went to his study and began making phone calls. The first was to Marcus Beasley, his attorney. "Raymond, it's 5 in the morning. I need you at my house in 2 hours. Bring your family law partner and a criminal attorney." The second call was to Eugene Schaefer, a private investigator Salazar Energy kept on retainer for background checks and corporate espionage. "Eugene, I need everything on Stuart and Bertha Hendricks. Everything. Financial records, medical history, legal complaints, business dealings. I want to know every skeleton in their closet. And I need it by noon." The third call was to Guy Doherty, an old friend from Raymond's early days in the oil fields. Guy had left the business and become a social worker specializing in child welfare cases. "Guy, I need a favor. A big one. And I need you to document everything." By 6 a.m., the sun was rising over Dallas. Raymond sat at his desk, making lists, building a plan. 6 hours he'd given them. It was more than they deserved. His phone rang. "Lisa." He answered without speaking. "Raymond, Mother called. She's very upset. She says you threatened her, that you broke into her home and stole Justin. She wants me to file a police report. She says, 'Where are you right now?' I'm still at the hotel. I was waiting for Mother to call and say the lesson was complete. Raymond, what's going on? She's talking about lawyers and restraining orders, and come home. Now. We need to talk. I don't like your tone. You're being very aggressive, and I think. Lisa. His voice dropped to something cold and hard. Your mother chained our 7-year-old son to a doghouse. She put a collar around his neck and made him eat from a bowl on the ground. For 3 days. So you can come home and we can discuss this like adults? Or you can stay where you are and I'll have my attorneys contact you there. Your choice. Silence stretched for 10 seconds. 20. I'm coming home, Lisa whispered. Raymond hung up and returned to his lists. He had 6 hours to prepare. 6 hours to build something that would crush Bertha Hendricks so completely she'd never recover. And he was going to make every second count. At 7 a.m., Guy Doherty arrived with a medical examiner and a photographer. They documented Justin's injuries with clinical precision, the abraded skin, the bruising, the dehydration. The photographer took pictures from every angle while Guy filled out forms in careful block letters. This is severe abuse, Guy said quietly, outside Justin's bedroom. The psychological damage alone. Raymond, I need to report this. I'm a mandatory reporter. I can't. I know. That's why you're here. Report it. But I need copies of everything first. At 8 a.m., Marcus Beasley arrived with 2 other attorneys. A severe woman named Regina Curtis who specialized in family law, and a younger man named Jose Wells who handled criminal defense. Talk, Marcus said, setting up in Raymond's dining room. Raymond laid out everything. The history of Bertha's control, Lisa's compliance, Justin's treatment, the chain, the collar, the 3 days of torture disguised as discipline. Regina's expression grew darker with each detail. We can get emergency custody within hours. File charges against both grandparents. Press for full prosecution. No, Raymond said. Not yet. Raymond, I don't want them arrested. Not immediately. I want them destroyed. Jose leaned back in his chair. That's a dangerous road. If you're planning anything illegal. I'm not planning anything illegal. Raymond smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. I'm going to use the law, their own reputation, and their circle of influence to dismantle everything they've built. And they're going to know exactly who's doing it. At 9 a.m., Eugene Schaefer called back. You're not going to believe what I found. How fast do you want this? Everything. Now. I'm sending encrypted files. Raymond, this woman has enemies. A lot of them. Former employees of the dental practices with NDAs and sealed settlements. Accusations of workplace harassment. Financial irregularities in her practice management that got quietly swept under the rug. And Stewart, he's got a sealed DUI from 6 years ago. The kind that requires connections to make disappear. Raymond's smile widened. Keep digging. I want names of everyone they've hurt. Everyone they've silenced. Everyone who's been waiting for someone to take them down. At 9:45, Lisa's car pulled into the driveway. Raymond met her at the door. She looked exhausted, her makeup smudged, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Where's Justin? She asked. Sleeping. Recovering from being tortured by your mother. Lisa flinched. That's not fair. Mother was just trying to help. She said he'd been misbehaving, and I agreed that. You agreed to have our son chained up like an animal? She didn't tell me the specifics. She said she had a program, a system that worked. I trusted her judgment. You trusted her more than your own instincts. More than your son's well-being. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. That's not true. I love Justin. Everything I've done has been to raise him properly. Mother said modern parenting was too soft, that children need. Your mother is a sadist. And you enabled her. The word hung between them like a blade. Lisa's tears spilled over. How dare you? I'm his mother. I would never hurt him. Everything I've done has been because I love him and I want him to grow up strong and respectful and... He's terrified of you, Raymond said quietly. Of me. Of every adult in his life, because you taught him that asking for water makes him bad. That normal childhood behavior deserves punishment that would get you arrested if you did it to a dog. I didn't know it was that severe. Mother said. I don't care what she said. Raymond's control finally cracked. You're his mother. Your job is to protect him, not to hand him over to that woman and trust that whatever she does is fine because she's your mother and she must know best. Lisa collapsed into a dining room chair, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to be a good mother. She kept saying I was doing everything wrong and I didn't know what to do and... You're moving out. Lisa's head snapped up. What? Today? Right now? Pack what you need and go to a hotel. Not your mother's house. Not anywhere near her. If you want to save this marriage, if you want any relationship with Justin, you're going to get into therapy and figure out how you became someone who could let this happen. You're kicking me out. I'm giving you a chance to fix yourself. Take it or don't. But you're not staying here until I know Justin is safe with you. Lisa stared at him, mascara streaked and broken. Raymond, please. We can work through this together. As a family. We stopped being a family when you let your mother put our son in a collar. She left an hour later, 2 suitcases in hand, still crying. Raymond watched her drive away and felt nothing but cold determination. At 11 a.m., with 90 minutes left on his 6-hour deadline, Raymond made 3 more calls. The first was to Sonia Fay, a reporter at the Dallas Morning News who specialized in investigative journalism and had broken several stories about white-collar crime and abuse in respected families. Ms. Fay, my name is Raymond Salazar. I have a story about child abuse, sealed settlements, and a prominent Dallas family using their money and influence to cover up a pattern of violence. Interested? The second call was to the Texas State Board of Dental Examiners. I'd like to file a formal complaint against Bertha Hendricks and review the sealed settlements involving former employees of Hendricks Dental Group. I believe you'll find a pattern of workplace abuse that's relevant to her licensing. The third call was to an organization called Justice for Children that specialized in high-profile abuse cases and advocated for stronger child protection laws. I'd like to make a donation. $10 million. And I'd like you to use my son's case as the centerpiece of your next campaign. At 12:58 p.m., 2 minutes before Raymond's 6-hour deadline expired, Bertha Hendricks received the first knock on her door. It was a process server delivering notice that Raymond Salazar was filing for emergency custody of Justin Salazar, citing severe child abuse. Attached were photographs, medical reports, and sworn statements. At 1:15 p.m., she received the second knock. A detective from the Dallas Police Department Child Abuse Unit wanted to ask some questions about an incident involving her grandson. At 1:45 p.m., her attorney called in a panic. The Dallas Morning News was running a story in tomorrow's edition about allegations of abuse and misconduct at Hendricks Dental Group, with named sources from former employees willing to go on record. At 2:30 p.m., the Texas State Board of Dental Examiners notified her of an immediate investigation into her business practices and professional conduct. At 3 p.m., her phone started ringing. Friends, country club members, people she'd known for 40 years, all asking the same question. Bertha, what's going on? What did you do? By 4 p.m., the story had spread across Dallas social media. Someone had leaked the photographs, not the worst ones. Raymond had made sure of that, protecting Justin's dignity, but enough to show a child in a collar, a chain, a doghouse. The caption read, Highland Park grandmother accused of torturing 7-year-old grandson. Bertha Hendricks' reputation, built over 62 years of careful image management, crumbled in 6 hours. Just as Raymond had promised. But he wasn't done. Not even close. The custody hearing happened fast, 48 hours after Raymond filed. Judge Virginia Walters took one look at the evidence and granted emergency sole custody to Raymond, with supervised visitation only for Lisa, pending her completion of a court-ordered psychological evaluation and parenting classes. Bertha wasn't granted any visitation rights at all. This court finds the evidence of abuse compelling and disturbing, Judge Walters said, her voice crisp. Mrs. Hendricks, you're fortunate that criminal charges are still pending. If I had my way, you'd be in hand-holding already. Bertha sat between her attorneys, her face a mask of rage barely contained. Stuart sat beside her, silent as always. Raymond took Justin home. His son was quiet in the truck, processing everything. Daddy? Will Grandma come to our house? No, buddy. Never again. I promise. Good. Justin looked out the window. Then, quieter. I hate her. I know. Is it bad to hate someone? Raymond thought about his answer carefully. Hate can eat you up from the inside if you let it. But sometimes, knowing someone did wrong and deciding you don't want them in your life, that's not hate. That's protection. That's wisdom. Justin nodded slowly. Can I protect myself from Grandma? You'll never have to see her again. I'll make sure of it. The criminal investigation moved forward. Guy Doherty's report, combined with the medical evidence and Justin's testimony to a trained child forensic interviewer, built an airtight case. But Raymond knew criminal prosecution alone wasn't enough. Bertha would get a good lawyer, probably plead down to minimal charges, maybe avoid jail time entirely. Rich people in Dallas had a way of sidestepping consequences. So Raymond built something more permanent. Eugene Schaefer's investigation uncovered 7 former employees of Hendricks Dental Group who'd signed NDAs after experiencing workplace abuse. Bertha had a pattern. She'd berate employees publicly, threaten their careers, create hostile work environments, then offer them settlement money contingent on their silence. Raymond contacted each one personally. He offered to pay their legal fees if they wanted to break their NDAs and go public. He offered financial support if Bertha sued them for breach. He offered them something they'd never had before, someone willing to stand up to her. 6 of the 7 agreed. Their stories hit the news over the following week. A dental hygienist who'd been forced to work despite a miscarriage. A receptionist who'd been called stupid and worthless daily for 2 years. An office manager who'd discovered financial irregularities and been threatened into silence. The Texas State Board of Dental Examiners suspended Bertha's license pending their investigation. Hendricks Dental Group lost half its patients within 2 weeks. The criminal trial for child abuse began 8 weeks after the incident. The prosecutor, a woman named Holly Morton, was fierce and methodical. She'd reviewed every piece of evidence, interviewed Justin personally, and come away convinced this was the most clear-cut abuse case she'd seen in 20 years. "We're going to put her away," Holly told Raymond before the trial began. "People like her, who abuse their power and hurt children, they don't get to walk free. Not on my watch." The trial lasted 4 days. Justin didn't have to testify in person. His forensic interview was played for the jury instead. Raymond sat in the courtroom and watched 12 people's faces as they heard his 7-year-old son explain, in a small voice, how Grandma said boys who don't listen live like animals. 2 jurors cried. Guy Doherty testified about the medical evidence, the photographs, the severity of the psychological trauma. Eugene Schaefer testified about his investigation, the pattern of abuse Bertha showed in all aspects of her life. Lisa testified too, brought in by the defense to claim Bertha was a loving grandmother who'd never shown signs of cruelty before. But under cross-examination, Lisa admitted she'd left Justin with Bertha for 3 days without checking on him, that she'd ignored his phone calls, that she'd chosen her mother's approval over her son's well-being. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts: child abuse, unlawful restraint, endangerment of a minor. Bertha Hendricks was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Stuart Hendricks was charged as an accessory. He'd known about the punishment and done nothing. He took a plea deal, 2 years in prison, followed by 5 years probation. But the legal consequences weren't the worst of it for Bertha. The worst was watching her entire life disintegrate. Hendricks Dental Group filed for bankruptcy 3 months after her conviction. The financial irregularities Eugene had uncovered turned into a full IRS investigation. Bertha and Stuart owed back taxes, penalties, and interest totaling $3.2 million. Their Highland Park mansion went up for sale. It sat on the market for 9 months before finally selling at a loss. Their country club revoked their membership. Their friends stopped calling. The dental school that had honored Bertha with a Distinguished Alumni Award quietly removed her name from their Hall of Fame. She became a cautionary tale, a woman who'd built an empire of respectability on a foundation of cruelty, and watched it all collapse the moment someone had the courage to stand up to her. Raymond made sure everyone knew who that someone was. He gave interviews to local media, carefully controlled, and focused on child abuse awareness. He donated millions to child advocacy organizations. He became a voice for parents who'd lost custody battles to abusive grandparents, who'd been gaslit into thinking they were overreacting. And every article, every interview, every news segment mentioned Bertha Hendricks by name and showed that photograph of Justin in the collar. She would never escape it, never rebuild, never pretend it didn't happen. Raymond made sure of that. Lisa struggled through months of therapy and parenting classes. She'd moved into an apartment near Raymond's house, seeing Justin for supervised visits twice a week. The sessions were painful. Justin was wary of her, asking permission for everything, flinching when she reached for him. "I'm sorry," she told him during their 3rd visit, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, baby. I should have protected you. I should have listened to you. I was wrong." Justin watched her cry with a 7-year-old's solemnity. You listened to Grandma instead of me. I did. And that was the worst mistake of my life. Why? Lisa looked at the court-appointed supervisor, then back to Justin. Because Grandma. Grandma taught me that children should be quiet, obedient. That questioning adults was disrespectful. She raised me to think love meant control. And I didn't realize how wrong that was until I saw what it did to you. Do you still think that? No. Lisa knelt to Justin's eye level. Love means protecting, listening, believing you when you say something's wrong. And I'm learning how to do that. I'm trying to be better. Will you ever be like Grandma again? Never. I promise you, baby. Never again. It took 6 months before Justin asked if he could visit his mother alone. Another 3 before he started calling her Mom, again instead of Lisa. Another year before the flinching stopped. Raymond watched it all with mixed feelings. Part of him wanted to forgive Lisa, to rebuild their family. Part of him would never forgive her for those 3 days when Justin suffered while she stayed in a hotel and trusted her mother's process. They went to couples therapy. Lisa showed genuine remorse, genuine change. She'd cut off all contact with Bertha, refused to take her calls from prison, sold the diamond necklace her mother had given her, and donated the money to Justice for Children. But some things, once broken, never fit together quite the same way. After 18 months of separation, they signed divorce papers. Amicable, mature, with an agreement that Lisa could see Justin every weekend and Wednesday nights. No supervision required. I'll never stop being sorry, Lisa told Raymond as they signed the final documents. I know, he said, but sorry doesn't erase what happened. It just means we do better going forward. She nodded, wiping tears. Are you going to remarry? Maybe someday. Right now, I'm focused on Justin. He's lucky to have you. He should have had both of us from the start. Lisa flinched, but nodded. You're right. He should have. They parted civilly, 2 people who'd loved each other once and learned too late that love required more than chemistry and attraction. It required courage, boundaries, the willingness to protect what mattered even when it meant standing up to family. Lisa learned that lesson at the worst possible time, but at least she learned it. Bertha Hendricks served 6 years of her 8-year sentence before being released on parole. She was 71 years old, alone, and broke. Stewart had died in prison 2 years into his sentence. A heart attack, quick and quiet. He'd left nothing behind but debts. Bertha tried to contact Lisa when she got out. Lisa blocked her number. She tried to contact Raymond. He had his attorney send a cease and desist letter. She tried to contact Justin directly, sending letters to Raymond's address. Raymond burned them without reading them. Finally, 6 months after her release, Bertha showed up at Justin's middle school. She waited by the parent pickup area, hoping to catch a glimpse of her grandson. Raymond got the call from the school security guard who recognized her from the news coverage. Mr. Salazar, we have a situation. He was there in 12 minutes. Bertha stood by the fence, thinner than he remembered, her hair gone white. She looked old, defeated, but when she saw Raymond, her eyes held that same cold determination he remembered. I just want to see him, she said. 5 minutes. Is that so much to ask? Yes, Raymond said simply. I'm his grandmother. I have rights. You gave up those rights when you chained him to a doghouse. Bertha's face twisted with rage. There it was, the monster beneath the mask. I was teaching him discipline. If you'd let me finish, he would have been better for it. Stronger. But no, you had to be the hero. You had to destroy everything I built. Do you have any idea what you took from me? Raymond stepped closer. Bertha stepped back. I took nothing from you, Raymond said quietly. You destroyed yourself. Every choice that led to you standing here, broke and alone, was yours. You tortured a child. You paid the price. And if you ever come near my son again, I'll make sure you go back to prison for violating the restraining order. Do you understand me? Bertha's mask cracked completely. Tears, probably the first genuine emotion Raymond had ever seen from her, spilled down her weathered face. He's my grandson. He's my son. And you'll never touch him again. Security escorted her off school property. Raymond stayed and watched until her car disappeared around the corner. That night, he told Justin what happened. His son, now 13, listened with the quiet intensity he'd developed. He was doing well. Therapy had helped. Time had helped. Raymond's unwavering protection had helped. He had friends. He played soccer. He got good grades. He laughed. Are you okay? Raymond asked. Justin thought about it. Yeah, I am. It's weird, I don't really remember what she looks like anymore. When you said she was at school, I tried to picture her face, and I couldn't. That's good, buddy. That means you're healing. Did she look old? Very. Good. Justin returned to his homework. Then, without looking up, thanks for destroying her, Dad. Raymond's throat tightened. You're welcome. I know that sounds bad. Mom's therapist says revenge is unhealthy, and I should focus on healing and forgiveness, and whatever. But I'm glad you made her pay. Want to know a secret? Raymond sat on the edge of Justin's bed. It wasn't revenge. Revenge is about making yourself feel better. What I did was about making sure she could never hurt you or anyone else again. That's called justice. Justin looked up, his eyes, so much older than 13, meeting Raymond's. What's the difference? Revenge is about the past. Justice is about the future. Did it work? The justice part. Raymond thought about Bertha's broken life, the former employees who'd finally gotten their voices back, the changes in Texas law around mandatory reporting that had come from Justin's case. He thought about the families who'd reached out to him, saying his story gave them courage to stand up to their own abusers. Yeah, he said. I think it did. Justin smiled. A real smile, the kind Raymond had worried he'd never see again after that night in the backyard. Cool. Can you help me with my algebra homework? I don't understand quadratic equations. And just like that, they were back to normal life. Homework and dinner and mundane conversation about soccer practice and upcoming tests. Because that was the real victory. Not Bertha's downfall. Not the legal wins, or the media coverage, or the satisfaction of watching her empire crumble. The real victory was sitting at the kitchen table with his son, helping with homework, and knowing that Justin felt safe enough to worry about quadratic equations instead of whether he'd be punished for existing. That was justice. Everything else was just cleanup. 5 years later, Raymond sat in the audience of Justin's high school graduation. His son walked across the stage, tall and confident, accepting his diploma with a handshake and a smile. He'd grown into a good kid, kind, thoughtful, with a backbone of steel beneath his gentle demeanor. Lisa sat 3 seats down from Raymond, her new husband beside her. They'd reconciled their relationship enough to co-parent effectively. Justin spent weekends with Lisa, holidays split evenly. It worked. After the ceremony, they gathered for photos. Justin stood between his parents, grinning, his whole life ahead of him. Where to for college? Lisa's husband asked. MIT, Justin said proudly. Engineering program. They offered a full scholarship. Raymond felt pride swell in his chest. His son, smart, capable, unbroken despite everything. That night, alone in his house, Raymond found himself thinking about that October night 8 years ago. The chain, the collar, the 5 words that had started everything. I'm going to destroy you. He'd kept that promise. Completely. Thoroughly. And he'd do it again without hesitation. But tonight, watching his son graduate, seeing the man Justin was becoming, Raymond realized something. The best revenge wasn't Bertha's destroyed reputation or her prison sentence or her lonely, broke old age. The best revenge was this: Justin had won. Despite everything Bertha had done to break him, to teach him he was less than human, to crush his spirit, he'd won. He was happy, healthy, whole, and Bertha would die knowing she'd failed completely. That was the real justice. Raymond poured himself a whiskey and raised the glass to the empty room. To you, buddy, he said quietly. You earned it. Somewhere in a small apartment on the wrong side of Dallas, Bertha Hendricks sat alone, watching her grandson's graduation on Facebook. Lisa had made the photos public. She'd been blocked from commenting, blocked from liking, blocked from participating in his life in any way. She zoomed in on Justin's face, looking for any sign of the frightened, obedient child she'd tried to create. She found nothing. Just a confident young man, smiling at a future she'd never be part of. Bertha closed the laptop and sat in the darkness of her apartment, listening to sirens and traffic and the sounds of a life she'd destroyed through her own cruelty. She'd told herself for 8 years that she'd done nothing wrong, that Raymond had overreacted, that the punishment fit the crime, that children needed discipline and society had gone soft, and she'd been right all along. But looking at that photo, seeing Justin smile, she felt something she'd never allowed herself to feel before. Regret. Not for getting caught. Not for losing everything. But for the kind of person she'd been. The kind who could put a child in a collar and call it love. The kind who'd valued control over connection, obedience over compassion. She'd built her entire life on being right, being in charge, being respected. And in the end, she died alone, with none of those things. The really bitter part? She'd done it to herself. Raymond Salazar hadn't destroyed her. She destroyed herself. He just made sure everyone saw it. Bertha Hendricks died 3 years after Justin's graduation, alone in that small apartment, of complications from pneumonia. She was 79. Lisa called Raymond to tell him. He listened quietly, then said, "Are you okay?" "I don't know. Should I go to the funeral?" "That's up to you." "Would Justin want to go?" "Ask him." Justin declined. "I don't know that person anymore," he told his mother gently. "If you need to go, I understand. But I'm good." Lisa went to the funeral. 7 people attended. 3 were from the nursing home where Bertha had been living, there because it was their job. Stuart's grave was next to Bertha's plot. Lisa stood between them, looking at the woman who'd shaped her life in ways both terrible and profound. "I'm sorry you died alone," Lisa whispered. "But I'm not sorry I chose Justin over you. I should have done it sooner." She left flowers. Not for forgiveness, just for closure. The next weekend, Justin came home from MIT for spring break. Raymond picked him up at the airport, and they drove home talking about classes and projects and a girl Justin was dating who made him laugh. "Mom told me about Grandma," Justin said as they pulled into the driveway. "How do you feel?" Justin thought about it. "Relieved, I think." "Is that bad?" "No. It's honest. I'm glad she's gone. I'm glad I don't have to worry about her showing up somewhere, trying to, I don't know, apologize or justify it, or whatever. It's just over now." "Yeah, it is." They went inside. Raymond made dinner while Justin unpacked. Normal. Easy. The kind of evening Raymond had fought so hard to make possible. Later, after dinner, Justin stood in the doorway of his childhood bedroom. Raymond had kept it the same. Posters of soccer players, trophies from middle school, a bookshelf full of engineering textbooks Justin had devoured in high school. "Dad, yeah. Thank you. For that night. For believing me. For fighting for me." Raymond's chest tightened. "Always, buddy. Always. I know some kids whose parents didn't believe them. Or believed, but didn't do anything. They were scared or worried about family drama, or whatever. You acted. You saved me. You saved yourself. You survived. I just made sure the people who hurt you paid for it." Justin smiled. "You destroyed them." "I did." "Good." That night, Raymond sat in his study, looking at a framed photo from Justin's graduation. His son's face, bright with possibility. He thought about Bertha, dead and unmourned. About Lisa, trying to rebuild herself. About Stuart, who'd enabled evil through silence. About all the people who'd stood by while a child suffered because they were too afraid or too weak or too complicit to act. And he thought about the words he'd spoken 8 years ago in a Highland Park kitchen, standing over his traumatized son with a cut chain in his hand. "I'm going to destroy you." He'd meant every word. And he'd delivered every promise. That was what fathers did. They protected their children. They stood between their kids and the monsters, no matter what form those monsters took. They fought. They destroyed. They burned down empires if that's what it took. Raymond Salazar had learned that lesson the hard way. But he'd learned it. And his son had survived because of it. That was the only thing that mattered. The rest, Bertha's downfall, the legal victories, the public vindication, those were just the details. The victory was Justin, alive and whole and happy. Everything else was just making sure the monsters paid. And they had. Completely. Finally. Justice, Raymond had told his son, was about the future. And Justin's future was bright. That was the real ending to this story. Not Bertha's death or her lonely funeral, but Justin's life. Full and free and his own. Raymond closed the photo and turned off the light. Tomorrow, he'd take his son to breakfast. They'd talk about MIT, about engineering projects, about the girl who made Justin laugh. They'd talk about the future. Because that's what winners got to do. And his son, despite everything, was a winner. The monsters were dead. The victim had become a survivor. And the father who'd sworn to destroy anyone who hurt his child, he'd kept his promise. Every single word. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.